Today we have as our guest Natcho Angelo, co-founder of Kuubiik. Kuubiik was started for two main reasons. People spend too much time on tasks that are not their core business activity. Businesses don't always need to hire full-time staff. Sign up with Kuubiik. They can make your life easier with a virtual expert. So whether you need a virtual expert for marketing, graphic designing, video editing, accounting, legal advice, and virtually any aspect of running a business efficiently, look to Kuubiik. Spearheaded by Natcho Angelo, who has more than 14 years experience in sales and marketing and now an entrepreneur.
Hi Nacho, hi.
Hi,
Nice to
Mark.
meet you. Hi. So Nacho, you are from Kuubiik, right?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
And give us a short introduction as to your company Kuubiik. Tell us roughly when you started this business, the beginning, and what this business is about.
So we started this business officially end of 2019, but officially I would say businesses and opportunities started like arising around the beginning of 2020. We created this company Kuubiik together with my co-founder Swani, and yeah, at first it was something that was supposed to be specialized in virtual assistants, only something that is quite common in, let's say, Philippines, or actually very common in the United States, where you can, get a personal assistant virtually to help you with different like tasks. And slowly, as we were hearing back from our clients, we opened up more departments, in a way, more services such as like marketing, video editing, graphic design, etc. Yes.
Before you started this business, did you work somewhere else? Or, did you have some experience before launching into this business?
Yes. So I personally had like experience in marketing and sales all my life. So I started with sales at the beginning, and then slowly evolved to marketing, which is technically my master's degree, international marketing and management. But yeah, I started like at the beginning selling, being a real estate agent back in France. And progressively, I went into the marketing and started leading like big teams in sales, in marketing, digital marketing, SEO, in telemarketing, etc. So like quite a few departments here and there, and started leading like very, very large teams quite fast. So my biggest teams were around like 100 people. And as I was working in these companies, I realized that there was something that was missing, that I needed. I wanted, a service that didn't exist. So this is a little bit how Kuubiik started. Based on a need, based on the necessity that I was craving for, in a way.
Right. So this need you speak about, that's the virtual assistant or virtual experts, right?
Yes.
And when you are talking about virtual assistants and virtual experts, what's really the difference, say, between hiring a virtual expert, a freelancer, and maybe even an employee?
I think technically Kuubiik solves two main issues. One is the fact that people would spend way too much time on tasks that aren't related to their primary job duties, such as, let's say you're in marketing, and then you end up doing some finance forecasting or some accounting because maybe the accountant is too busy, or you end up doing some graphic design because the graphic design team is like, either you don't have one, or maybe they're too busy as well, and you end up like doing it because you need to pace it up and get up to speed for your campaign to launch. So there's a lot of like occasions where there's always like a missing thing, and you end up doing it yourself, and technically you don't focus on your work anymore. Companies are losing on this productivity. There's a lot of hours that are spent on tasks that aren't related to your job duties. About like 1/4 of your time actually, based on different like research and focus group that have been done over the years. And so that's one of the things, yeah.
I think I can relate to that, Natcho,
Mm.
because what you are trying to say, if I can understand this, is basically focus to tell the business owners, please focus on your core competence and your core business.
That's right.
And then the other ancillary stuff, which is not really your core competence or core business, right? You can basically outsource the work out to someone like you and a team
Exactly.
of people who will basically do it.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, that's exactly it. Like if your focus is, let's say, on business development, a lot of CEOs would be on how to strategize, how to restructure your company, how to like maybe grow the company, like and sometimes they have to handle like admin things, or some like operational tasks, which slows down the whole process. So that's what we're avoiding. The second thing that was even a bigger component of that decision of creating Kuubiik was sometimes you actually don't need a full-timer to for your business. You don't always need to hire full-time. And there's this sort of like by default mindset that whenever you need to hire someone, it must be a full-time or maybe a part-time. I was usually quite frustrated with this because for some businesses or for some departments, sometimes you don't necessarily need a full-time. So just to give you an example, an accounting company wants to be visible on, let's say, social media platforms, because nowadays it's very normal. But do you actually need a full-time staff to do this? Do you even need a part-timer? Not really, but you need someone that is attached to your company, that is sort of like invested in your story, in your strategy, but yet do the work, but maybe 1 or 2 hours a day instead of like 8 hours a day. Yeah.
Sure. So you mentioned about full-time and part-time. I suppose what's in the brain of the SME boss is sometimes it's not just about the allocation of time, but they are concerned about trade secrets. They feel that, if I get a full-time staff and this guy, has signed an employment agreement with me, then perhaps he will be loyal to me. Right? We'll get into the issue of loyalty. I mean, I have seen situations even where staff run away and then they sell out competition. But I think one of the biggest problem and hesitancy is this issue of trade secrets. How do you deal with this, this hesitancy?
So we actually work with quite a few MNCs, and of course, trade secrets and non-disclosure agreements is something that is very common and definitely like needs protection. So we're covered by different layers of contracts. So we have a contract between, let's say, the client and ourselves on the company level. And then we have a contract with our team, so with the virtual expert that is part entirely of our staff. So the virtual expert is a staff of Kuubiik. It's not a freelancer or anything like that. If, let's say, the client requires our virtual expert to sign additional NDAs and trade documents, etc., then that's not a problem. This will be signed between them. But on the corporate level, there's also a service agreement that is signed between the two of us. So usually, like, it's pretty much covered. You mentioned about what if like one of the virtual experts decides to leave our company and I go for someone else. Of course, there's like that situation, but usually we cover that side where we say there's like a certain time where you cannot join the other company, where you cannot join the same sector. And of course, if there's a bridge, then we have to do what's necessary. But usually, like, we have that protection, so that is usually quite enough for the client to be satisfied. And
Yeah, I'm picking up on what you said, that unlike other virtual experts I've come across, yours is unique in a sense that you hire them as your staff.
Yes.
Because in that situation, the chances of them getting poached by another company or another competitor gets reduced because they are your staff.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go on the internet and there are many virtual experts out there, they may be actually freelancers, right? And then they can basically freelance for a lot of other people as well.
Exactly. It's really like, I think this is really the gap that I was talking about, that sort of like need that I was craving for when I was working back then.
Yes.
It's like if I go with a freelancer, maybe I end up with a great freelancer, which is usually not the case. Sometimes it's like, oh, they work for you, and based on their reviews, you can check whether it's good or not, or maybe referrals or things like that. But let's say you end up with a very good freelancer. You work with him or with her for a certain time for that project for like maybe 2-3 months. Then once that project is done, you will probably call them again because the work was great. Maybe in 1 year time because you need another project similar to this, maybe a web development or something. But then in between that time, they are not in contact with you. They don't know what's going on with your company. You have to rebrief them entirely. It takes time, and sometimes they might say like, oh no, I'm actually now busy with another contract. Can you reach out to me like in 2 months? So it's just that whole uncertainty, that whole level of detachment that is a bit, annoying and can be like troublesome at times. And you never really know who you're going to end up with technically. So what we've created is really like that in-betweener between an employee who is with you nonstop, etc., and a freelancer, but it's attached. So it's like really the in-betweener, and there's no terminology yet to say what that role is, but we call it like virtual expert for now. Yeah.
Yes. I'm gonna change the topic slightly now. We're going to talk about something that affects all of us, and I think is very dear to us now. COVID-19.
Yes.
Right? I would like to hear from you how this has affected yourself, businesses, and what do you think, the road ahead is for us, if you can predict.
It's a tough topic because COVID-19 has affected everyone, whether in a positive or in a negative way. And I think for us, for Kuubiik, I think it has affected it in both ways. So at the beginning, when we started Kuubiik, the whole virtual concept of like getting like virtual staff and all that was interesting. And I think that was a new angle that we wanted to take and present it to companies and to small and medium like enterprises, and say like, hey, we have this for you, like this in-between solution. And it's all virtual, and you won't pay like overhead costs and things like that, like office space. But of course, like when COVID-19 started, everyone needed to start working from home. So all of a sudden, our concept was a little bit also not really that unique anymore. But at the same time, because everyone started working from home, businesses got a little bit more flexible about this idea of, hey, actually people can work from home and be as productive. And those that were able to do that, then for sure that actually eased up their mind in terms of like, oh, virtual work is fine actually. Because for sure that's something maybe that is more, or was more accepted in like America, in the United States or in Europe. Where working from home or having like someone virtual working for you was a little bit more accepted, whereas in Asia it was not yet something. It was still very new actually. So now that helped us in a way on that side. Yeah.
So what I can hear is some started out with some negatives because people started doing work from home, started taking out their own business, and started taking more interest in their own work. Then it got positive because now the idea is in the head, it's imprinted, and it's easier for you to basically, sell your services because it's not so novel anymore.
Yeah, there's another factor a little bit where when unfortunately some businesses needed to like restructure or downsize a little bit, that opened a little bit more opportunities for us as well, because we're providing actually fractions outsourcing via our our virtual expertise in a way, and that allows businesses to save drastically on overhead costs and to lower down like man hours, that were previously, like what I said before, like by default adjudged as full-time positions. So the ability to like switch down to maybe 40 hours per month instead of like 160 hours a month for one specific job, you cut down the cost and you can still do your work. So that's something that help us help businesses.
The thing that I'm hearing is this, is that I think you've got a lot of courage, because not many people, right, in this time can see the positive side, or what we call the silver lining, right? It is all this COVID-19 doom and gloom, but you were able quickly to basically see that silver lining. Now, how did you find that courage? How do you overcome that dark period?
I think it comes down to adaptability. So being able to come up with solutions when you have to. So again, like for us, we had this concept of the virtual expert, and we had to switch. Obviously, like our first messaging was like, "Hey, we're virtual" and everything, but then everyone became virtual, and then after that, we said like, "Hey, you know what? Let us help you." So we had to adapt.
Thank you so much. I'm going to end off here on a bright note, because what you say is absolutely spot on, right? We got to end off and not see the dark side of things, but we got to learn to adapt, have the courage to adapt, so that we can see the better side and the bright side of stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Natcho.
Thanks,
Thank
Mark.
you for
Thanks
the
a lot.
time.